Meanwhile, DOGE may have just found their next target. Elon Musk says he's now focusing on members of Congress who became, quote, strangely wealthy while in Congress.
Breaking news, guys. Elon Musk and the DOGE community just locked eyes on Capitol Hill, and the target, strangely wealthy members of Congress who somehow turned six-figure salaries into multi-million-dollar fortunes. And yes, Nancy Pelosi is right in the spotlight.
Of Apple stock, and on the same day, he also sold $5 million worth of artificial intelligence computer chip maker NVIDIA. Stock was 138, so Pelosi sells $5 million worth of stock. Today, less than a month later, it's closed at 118, a 13% drop since Pelosi unloaded. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Apparently, these...
Wow, guys. Wow. We're talking about stock trades that are just so perfectly timed. It's almost like she's got a crystal ball or maybe even a seat in the back room where the real decisions get made, right? So guys, in this video, we're going to be exposing the trades, the timelines, the massive money moves that Nancy Pelosi and others have made while you were busy paying taxes and trusting the system like we were some suckers, right? Anyway, guys, stay tuned because later in this video, we're going to be ultimately revealing a single trade in a tiny AI company that's already printing millions of dollars for Nancy Pelosi and barely anybody's talking about it. Plus, why Elon Musk's latest moves could shake up Congress like never before and how you can actually track these insider level trades in real time. Don't blink, guys. Don't click away. The hypocrisy, it is just getting started, and the receipts, they're undeniable. If you guys appreciate the content, the updates, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, one or the other or both. Either way, I'm good with it. But, you know, strap in, guys, because what I'm about to share with you guys today, this should have the entire country asking one question. How did Paul and Nancy Pelosi make $38 million in stock trades between Election Day and Inauguration Day? Meanwhile, the rest of us were just kind of sitting around just trying to survive inflation and watch the results. Yeah, you heard that right, guys. $38 million in just a matter of weeks. But it gets worse. Paul Pelosi dumped $24 million in Apple stock and another $5 million in NVIDIA stock right before those stocks took a nosedive.
And on the same day, he also sold $5 million worth of artificial intelligence computer chip maker NVIDIA. Stock was 138, so Pelosi sells $5 million worth of stock. Today, less than a month later, it's closed at 118, a 13% drop since Pelosi unloaded. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Apparently, the stock trading prowess of the Pelosi family is so widely known that there is an X account called the Nancy Pelosi Stock Track.
So not only did she beat the drop, but she sparked a trend. So her trades are tracked by nearly 1 million people now, people literally following her every move and profiting off of it. But this isn't just about making money, guys. This is about power. Think about it. Because when you zoom out and you line up those dates, those trades, they happen right around big government transactions, sensitive meetings, and behind the scenes chatter. It's kind of like they got a cheat code for the stock market, right? I mean, what else could it be?
Says he's now focusing on members of Congress who became, quote, strangely wealthy while in Congress.
They'll send the money overseas to one NGO, then it'll go through a bunch of them, and then I'm highly confident that a bunch of that money then comes back to the United States and lands in the pockets of the people you just mentioned. It doesn't go directly, but let's just say that there's a lot of strangely wealthy members of Congress. I'm trying to connect the dots of how did they become rich while earning, how'd they get 20 million if they're earning 200,000 a year?
$200,000 salary, and somehow they're walking away with what, tens of millions of dollars in wealth. And here's the kicker, guys, like nothing about it is technically illegal because the rules are so weak, the transparency is so bad, and the oversight is so non-existent that they can pretty much just keep playing the game. But we're not done, though. I mean, there's a lot more here. We got a lot to talk about. In fact, coming up, guys, I'm going to walk you guys through one very specific stock that Nancy Pelosi bought that barely anybody is watching until she jumped into it. A tiny AI play that exploded right after her trade became public. And trust me, guys, this one is different because it's in biotech, AI, healthcare. And it's a stock sector that's heavily tied to FDA approvals and, drum roll please, government contracts. So you got to ask yourself, what does Nancy Pelosi know that we don't know, right? Well, stick around, guys, because I'm about to break that down for you guys, and I'm going to show you exactly what this company is, what it does, and why this trade could be the clearest example of how Congress turns inside access into insane profits. But don't go anywhere, guys, because this next part right here, it might change how you see every politician's stock portfolio from here on out. So let me ask you something. Let me ask you something that really should be front page news everywhere. Why are so many members of Congress walking away with millions of dollars? Meanwhile, they're making a government salary of around $174,000 a year. Any questions or any guesses, guys? Why do their portfolios seem to beat the market every single year? The NASDAQ, S&P 500. Why is Elon Musk and the entire DOGE community now turning their attention to these exact people? Yeah, something's happening, guys. And I think it's bigger than just a few shady trades.
Focusing on members of Congress who became, quote, strangely wealthy while in Congress.
They'll send the money overseas to one NGO, then it'll go through a bunch of them, and then I'm highly confident that a bunch of that money then comes back to the United States and lands in the pockets of the people you just mentioned. It doesn't go directly, but let's just say that there's a lot of strangely wealthy members of Congress. I'm trying to connect the dots of how did they become rich while how'd they get 20 million if they're earning 200,000 a year?
Exactly, Elon. We're all trying to connect those dots too, right with you, man? Because this isn't just about one or two trades. This is about years of suspicious stock activity, trades placed just before major legislation passed. I mean, just before key contract announcements or right before a company's share price rockets or crashes. And guess who seems to be able to time it just right? You know, you got it. People with security clearances, access to non-public information, closed-door briefings on Capitol Hill. And let's be honest, guys, it's not just a conspiracy theory anymore. In fact, even members of Congress themselves have had enough.
Some fellow Democrats don't agree. Liberal Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was a guest on Jon Stewart's podcast on Friday. She never mentioned Pelosi by name. It's not hard to read between the lines.
There need to be Democrats who walk the walk and talk the talk. There is an insane amount of hypocrisy. For example, I think one of the most biggest examples of this is insider trading in Congress.
Urgent warning, guys. The job market is collapsing. The economy is shrinking fast. Layoffs are skyrocketing. The Trump tariffs are already shaking industries. The media won't tell you this, but most high-paying jobs, they're disappearing. And the ones that do remain, they're soon going to be out of reach. But here's the good news, guys. I've put together a list of 30 plus jobs that pay around $100,000 per year without a degree. These are recession-proof jobs, and some are even set to explode in demand thanks to this economic shakeup. No college degree required, no student debt, just real jobs that pay. But I promise, guys, this list is not going to be available forever. So get it right now. Get it before these jobs are flooded by the competition. I'm going to go ahead and leave a link down below so you can get your free list of the 30 plus jobs that pay over $100,000 without a college degree. So download this list before it's too late. Ooh. So that's AOC like laying it out to Jon Stewart. So now the question is, why is Doge, yes, the internet's favorite meme coin community, getting involved? It's simple: transparency, accountability, and maybe even justice. Now, coming up, guys, I'm going to show you guys the exact platform the Doge community is backing to expose these trades, track them in real time, and even give you the power to see what Congress is doing with their money before they vote on what happens with your money, if you know what I mean. Plus, we're even going to break down the most outrageous examples of this behavior yet, how a certain congresswoman turned a tiny investment into a multi-million-dollar win. Meanwhile, the rest of us weren't even allowed in the game. Stick around, guys, because the rabbit hole goes a lot deeper, and you're going to want to see what I uncovered. Now, you know your stock trading is suspicious when almost 1 million people create an account just to track your every move, right? And that's exactly what happened with Nancy Pelosi. In fact, she's not just the former Speaker of the House. She is also the official, or I should say, she's the unofficial Wall Street whisperer for retail traders across the country. There's literally, I'm not even exaggerating. There's literally a Twitter account, the Nancy Pelosi Stock Tracker, with like 900,000 followers dedicated to copying Nancy Pelosi's very own trades because she wins that often. I'm not kidding. She buys, stocks go up. She sells, stocks crash. I mean, I don't know. Like, she's just amazing. And if you've been watching her trades for like the last few years, you could have made a fortune.
Close to 900,000 followers can keep tabs on what the Pelosi's are buying and selling, presumably in order to copycat their own way to financial success. And that could be making the Pelosi trades have even more of an impact on the market. Nancy Pelosi's been asked a number of times over the years whether members of Congress and their spouses investing in the market is.
And it's not just about copying trades anymore, guys. It's also about calling out the hypocrisy, because regular Americans can't trade on insider information. That's a felony. But Congress, well, Congress writes the rules. And when Nancy Pelosi was pressed about this very issue, about whether it's a conflict of interest for members of Congress to be actively trading stocks while shaping policy, her answer? Oh, you got to hear this.
Should members of Congress and their spouses be banned from trading individual stocks while serving in Congress?
No, I don't know to the second one. This is a free market, and people, we are a free market economy. They should be able to participate in that.
Seriously? Seriously, Nancy Pelosi? That's not an explanation. That's a shrug and a pearl necklace. So here's what I want you guys to think about. Like, why are members of Congress on both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats, allowed to make these perfectly timed trades while everyday Americans get left holding the bag? Oh, we're supposed to just ride it out, but y'all can jump in and out like just before good things happen and just before bad things happen, right? And more importantly, what happens when you finally start tracking them? Like, what happens then? Oh, we're going to talk about that. So coming up next, guys, I'm going to actually break down exactly how people are profiting by mimicking Nancy Pelosi's trades through these real-time platforms. And I'm even going to show you guys the latest trades that she just filled. I mean, if you guys are familiar with the lingo, including one that's already spiked by like 60% since she bought it. Stick around, guys, because I'm not going to just expose this stuff. I want to go ahead and blow this thing wide open. And I want to show you guys how to flip the system on its head, right? So let me tell you, first of all, this is not investment. This is not investing advice. This is not trading advice. I'm not an investment advisor. This is not financial advice. But let me tell you guys about one of the biggest open secrets in Washington right now. Money doesn't just disappear overseas. It flows out through NGOs. It gets filtered through foreign programs. And somehow it ends up right back in the hands of the same politicians who sent it. Crazy? Maybe. But when you follow the money, it always leads somewhere interesting. Because here's what's happening, guys. Billions in U.S. taxpayer funds, they go to international NGOs, often under the banner of aid, like maybe Ukraine aid, foreign aid, climate change, security, you name it, right? But once the money leaves the U.S. soil, it enters a black box. Do you ever wonder where when we send money overseas, where it really goes? Like who actually gets all this money, right? And as we're now learning, some of this cash finds its way right back through family foundations, business investments, or even charitable partnerships that are linked to politicians.
To one NGO, then it'll go through a bunch of them, and then I'm highly confident that a bunch of that money then comes back to the United States and lands in the pockets of the people you just mentioned. It doesn't go directly, but let's just say that there's a lot of strangely wealthy members of Congress.
And you want to know what really ties it all together, guys? You really want to know? Stock trading. Because while they're pushing bills in Congress, they're also placing bets on the companies that stand to benefit the most. Now, ask yourself this. Are they just lucky traders, or do they know something that the rest of us don't know?
Two reasons. One, we wanted to call out the hypocrisy of them trading because, we were watching them consistently make trades. They weren't going to ban themselves. And we were like, look, let's create a way to call them out. And then two, we wanted to make some money. It turned out as like a cool joke to start following them. And then when you started realizing like, holy crap, time after time, they would buy, stocks would go up, they would sell, stocks would go down. Let's create the first way to actually invest alongside them. And that's exactly what we did.
Wow. So what's really going on here, guys? I mean, we got politicians using nonprofits and foreign aid as a financial round trip, while placing perfectly timed stock trades that are based on meetings that you and I will never hear about. Coming up next, guys, I'm going to break down one of the most blatant recent examples of this, guys. I'm talking about a small cap AI company that exploded in value just days after one politician made its move, with zero mainstream media coverage. And wait until you hear what that company does and how closely it depends on government contracts, guys. You do not want to miss this next part. So let's talk about something that's finally starting to bubble over, even within the Democratic Party, because not everybody on the left is okay what's happening behind the scenes on Capitol Hill. And one voice in particular, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, like who would have thought it, right? I mean, she's calling out the massive conflict of interest that's happening when members of Congress, yes, even from her own party, trade stocks while they hold public office. And she ain't holding back.
Guest on Jon Stewart's podcast on Friday. She never mentioned Pelosi by name. It's not hard to read between the lines.
There need to be Democrats who walk the walk and talk the talk. There is an insane amount of hypocrisy. For example, I think one of the most biggest examples of this is insider trading in Congress.
Wow. She didn't name any names, but we all know who she's talking about, right? Because while some Democrats are sounding the alarm, others are actively profiting. They're timing their trades with some call it surgical precision before the rest of us even know what's happening. And you got congressional spouses out here flipping options like hedge fund managers. You've got multi-million-dollar moves being made just days before major legislation. And when asked if this should be even allowed, the answer from leadership was just, let's just say, a little tone deaf.
No, I don't know to the second one. This is a free market and people, we are a free market economy. They should be able to participate in that.
Really? Because when the people making the laws are also making the trades, that's not a free market, lady. That's a rigged game. Even Donald Trump called it rigged. Now, coming up, guys, I'm going to show you how this double standard plays out in real time with a stock that Nancy Pelosi just bought that surged over 60% within just weeks of her disclosure. And this ain't Microsoft. It's not Google. It's a tiny AI health company, the kind of pick that you probably only hear about if you were in the room where the decisions are made. Now, stick around, guys, because the hypocrisy isn't just real, it's profitable. And in the next few minutes, you're going to see exactly how. So let's talk about something that every American, left, right, and center should agree on. Transparency in politics, right? Term limits. Because if there's one thing that unites both sides of the aisle, it's the fact that we're sick and tired of not knowing where the money's going. It's our money. Or even how our leaders are making their money. And so take stock trading by politicians, for example, right? The disclosures are very vague at best. The rules are weak, and the system is built so that the real deals happen quietly through spouses, family members, backdoor partnerships. It's not fair. And that brings us to someone who's become the face of this entire debate, Nancy Pelosi. She entered Congress with modest means. Today, she's worth tens of millions of dollars. And her husband, Paul Pelosi, has built a fortune in venture capital and strategic stock trades. And somehow the timing of these trades always seems to line up just right.
The spouses and the children as well.
Right. And, for instance, Nancy Pelosi, when she came into office, she had a fraction of the amount of money she's got now. But her husband, a venture capitalist, invested in a lot of different stocks and made just a jackpot of money. And that's one of the reasons why so many people in Congress have said, we got to stop with the stock trading. But famously, Nancy Pelosi has said, no, you know what? We're going to keep doing it.
Yep. Rules for me and not for thee. The funny story about how all that even started, too, is before the Stock Act even happened, these politicians were allowed to do literally whatever they wanted. And part of the reason why she became kind of the poster child of this entire thing was she was able to get exclusive access to the Visa IPO at the time, back in, I believe it was 2009, 2008. And it was through her husband. Her husband was able to put in a certain amount of money before those shares became public for the general public to buy. And that was the largest IPO in history at the time. And she made a killing on it.
Oh, my God. The IPO alone made them millions of dollars. And that was just one trade. There are dozens and dozens and dozens more of these trades. And that was back in 2009. Y'all know how often she's trading, how often Paul Pelosi's trading, each one sketchier than the last. But here's a question, guys. How do we fight back? Well, now there's an app for that. I feel like it's one of those old school iPhone or Apple commercials back in the day. Oh, there's an app for that too, right? So there's an app for that. A group of entrepreneurs actually created something that's called Autopilot. And it's an app that's doing what Congress won't do. They're tracking trades made by politicians in real time. I mean, you could literally follow the stocks that they're buying, what they're selling, how their portfolios are performing, and compare them to yours.
They're a Paul Pelosi effect, meaning the cause and effect, right? So Paul Pelosi invests in it. That leads to all these other people then also investing, right? And so that potentially, I guess, could make the stock price go up.
Yeah. So we've been tracking her again since 2020, and we've never seen that to be the actual case. The reason being is she's buying mega cap stock. So Tesla, Nvidia, Google, Apple, Amazon, even the smaller ones like CrowdStrike, Palo Alto Networks. These companies are just so big that any retail coming and following along wouldn't be able to increase the stock price. However,
now here's the kicker, guys. The app isn't just a watchdog tool anymore. It's actually now a registered investment advisory firm with hundreds of millions under management. And spoiler alert, guys, their Pelosi portfolio, it's up over 90% since they started tracking this thing. Isn't that just wild? 90% since they started tracking it. Now, coming up, I want to walk you guys through the exact trades that Nancy Pelosi made this quarter, including one tiny AI stock that exploded after she bought it. Now, this isn't just about politics anymore, guys. This is about power. It's about money. It's about access. And the more we expose it, the more the American people will finally start to realize they don't play by the same rules we do. Stick around, guys. It gets even better. Now, if you've been wondering how Congress turns public service into private fortunes, this part might explain a lot. Because while the average American needs to wait in line to invest in the next big thing, Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, he gets early access to one of the biggest IPOs in U.S. history. The Visa IPO in 2008-2009 timeframe. Now, but this was before it even became available to the public. Before it became available to the public, Paul Pelosi, he already put money into it. And when it opened, he made a killing. They made an absolute killing on this thing. But let's call it what it is. It's rigged access for the connected by the connected. And it's not just Nancy Pelosi. This is happening across Congress on both sides of the aisle. As Elon Musk recently pointed out, if you really want to find the dirt, you have to follow the families.
Politicians. So
Right.
if I were Elon, and I would kind of recommend where to look for the for some suspicious stuff going on here, I would go right to the spouses, and especially especially the spouses and the children as well.
Right. And, you know, for instance, Nancy Pelosi, when she came into office.
Man, because while members of Congress are required to disclose their trades, their spouses, their kids, well, that's where things get a little hard to trace and where the biggest profits might be hiding. Now, look, guys, I mean, this kind of shady behavior isn't going unnoticed anymore. I mean, that's it. We have to put this thing on blast. I mean, there have been multiple calls from across the country to ban stock trading in Congress altogether. And when asked about it, Nancy Pelosi didn't flinch. No. Translation, we make the rules. We'll keep playing the game. Now, here's the scary part here, guys. Most of this it's not even illegal. That's the sad part. Not because it's right, but because the laws are just too weak. There's no oversight. It's not illegal. There's no enforcement. Just vague disclosure forms and slow media cycles.
Yeah, and that's, I think, what the majority of the Americans want.
Right.
Just
exactly.
transparency into it, bring some more kind of touch points on it. Yeah, we have been tracking her and a lot of other politicians for a while. No one has ever been found in charge for insider trading. Right. There has been allegations. We've seen some suspicious stuff, but you are right. This is all kind of just wanting more transparency and more input into what truly is going on.
And that's the heart of it, guys. The American people are waking up. More and more of us are demanding transparency, accountability, and answers. Why are the people writing our laws also cashing in before we even get a fair shot? Like, so if you're tired of feeling like the game is rigged, you're not crazy, because it is. And the only way it changes is when we start shining a light on every trade, every loophole, and every excuse. So I just want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you found this video valuable, make sure you hit the like button, drop a quick comment, share this video with someone who still thinks Congress is playing unfair, because I mean, it's true. And this is just getting started, guys. Now, again, appreciate you guys hitting the like button. Thank you so much for subscribing, and we'll see you guys on the next one.